It's Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman time. We've had the meeting in Absolute Wonder Woman's book in issue 15, and now we're over in issue 16 of Absolute Batman for the finale of the duet. That's how they labeled it. This issue, despite the giant fight with a mythological being, is more of a downtime issue, and lets some of the happenings settle in for Bruce, alongside some fairly strong development for him emotionally. It's interesting, and there's also one part that drove me mad, and I need to know if the same thing happened to anyone else. So I'm Sash, this is Casually Comics, and let's talk about the flip side of the team-up. Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman are the first heroes to meet in the Absolute Universe in a team-up kind of way, and they really hit it off over in Wonder Woman's book. There she came to Gotham investigating a murder. And at the end of that, she pitched an idea to Bruce, because they're already at that state, first names and all that by the end of it, that they should start to make friends with some of the others, specifically the Superman. She also gave him a USB with some info on it. And importantly for this issue, she gave him a talisman to contact her. Now these stories were pitched as a different kind of crossover slash team up, in that they weren't meant to interrupt each other's books in the sense that you would have to stop and go buy the other to finish the story. It's more that each of the series individually then incorporates the other character. So you're kind of getting two standalone team up issues. And while they both provide a bit of a break in the main action of each series, it's not a full halt. So it was more of an invitation to read the other books than a forceful, if you don't read this, you're not going to know what's happening. So you end up with books where you get to see another character come in and experience that frame. Basically, you get to see how the characters are rendered creatively by different creative teams inside the same universe, and how they're integrated into the story. The Absolute Batman issue definitely breaks its flow less. This is still very much a Batman first issue, which ends up as a result kind of creating the idea that Wonder Woman and Batman are a much more established team than they are. It just kind of gives them that feeling that they've been working together for a long time, because it makes their relationship seem very close. The way they slot together so seamlessly makes them feel like this universe's world's finest, the position usually occupied by Superman and Batman in the main line. And it's interesting to see that different dynamic. I personally hope it lasts. Rebalancing the Trinity for this dark side universe has some potential for interesting storytelling, especially if you put Superman more in the outsider position. There are just opportunities there. Now the cover for this was shared a while back. The two facing each other with Bruce saying, "Go to hell?" ? And to see dialogue on covers, no longer a common practice, but once very much in vogue. I am in the Diana should be taller than him camp though, even if it's only just a little bit. Now this issue is written by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta with art by Nick Dragotta. Colors by Frank Martin. Now as for this story, it opens somewhere we don't normally see Bruce. At work, Bruce has a job, but we rarely see him at it. And there's a little detail that he's sleeping, which is a nice touch, because it highlights the struggle to balance being Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's also working on a project to rebuild the stadium that was demolished in Batman's battle with Bane. So he's still just as intrinsically tied to Gotham's happenings as he is in the main line, but just on a different level. Now Absolute Batman tends to keep the characters of the Batman mythos fairly close to their original positions most of the time. There are exceptions, of course. So here we have that Bruce still works for Lucius Fox, whom is fond of him and gives him advice that many people need to hear, which is go touch grass. Get out there, touch some grass, ride a horse, get in a fight, just have some fun. Why was getting in a fight on the list of fun things? What kind of fight club is Lucius Fox a part of? Now, rather than touch some grass, Bruce first goes to reinforce his guilt around his friends. He goes specifically to visit Harvey Dent and Oswald Cobblepot, both of whom were brutalized by Bane into forms more closely resembling their villainous comic counterparts. He has come bearing sandwiches, but there's only one thing. He's forgotten that Oswald can't eat anything yet, because he's all pulverized and mangled, which is really something that he should have remembered. This scene can be interpreted a few ways because of that. It raises the question of, has he been visiting them regularly, or has he stayed away because he's felt so guilty? Is he just mindlessly trying to reassert the previous status quo and make things like they were, by trying to bring their faves? Or is he just being a little thoughtless, callous? Or it could just be a contrived error to make sure that the scene leaves space for them to berate him, which they do. Sandwiches. At least Lena left dough before she took off. See, there's a true friend. Did she leave you anything, Bruce? Your usual broken heart on a roll. The design choice to have Oswald's mouth be more beak-like, it's pretty cool. Harvey's more blue BTAS face is coupled with long flowing white hair. How long has he been there for his hair to get like that? It's quite luxurious. That's what I thought, wah. I thought you're real good at saving the city. How about next time you try saving one of your friends for a change? Yeah, that's right, go. Walk away, big hero. You're not him. Harshaws. Nah. He deserved it. This scene works well in playing out the emotional dilemma that's present in a lot of superhero stories of the, if people know who you are, they will get hurt. Or even beyond that, that just having close ties leads to people getting hurt. So you're seeing that kind of fallout, and then it raises the question of how is Bruce meant to handle that. But there's also a fun visual thing here, and that's the flipping on Harvey for the two responses, the kinder one on the less damaged side, and the harsher one on the damaged side. It's a very nice bit of visual reinforcement of the Two-Face motif without having to come out and say it. It's clever rather than on the nose. For that, we have the fact that the penguin is making his sound effect. Batman 66 is in all of us. That leads us to our title page. Bat out of hell. Cute. And now Meatloaf songs are gonna be stuck in my head all day. That encounter is the catalyst for Bruce summoning Diana, because he's decided he's gonna do something to help his friend. Starting off with Waylon, who I guess you could argue is the most mangled, having been transformed into a giant crocodile monster thing. So he goes to the museum for another bit of silent storytelling, where we see a bunch of the animal-human hybrids of Greco-Roman mythology. And there he summons Diana.
I demand an audience with Diana of the Wild Isle.
Hello, Bruce. Since the talisman of Hecate will only work 3 times, I can assume you're summoning me for something dire. Hey, an editor's note! Woo! Okay, so this panel and this mild brief info dump. This is where I got stuck. In the prior team up, which is referenced, yay, Diana never says anything about there being a limit on the talisman. It's presented much more as a signal watch. Jimmy Olsen, you can call me anytime, or Kim Possible, call me, beep me if you want to reach me. Now, that kind of thing changes a lot of the energy behind the object. Not only does that create a more collaborative, this is an ongoing team up energy over in the Wonder Woman book versus the use this sparingly in an emergency energy of this story, but if that were the case, would that mean that he only has 1 use left? Because he used it on Diana in that past issue because he had to get her back to herself. Would that count as a usage? He did use it, because now we're establishing rules that were not there before. And with only 1 use left, that would place this object in a very different kind of position than if it was just something he could use all the time. They do also talk a little bit about groups of 3, but in the Wonder Woman issue, there's no stated explicit, it will only work 3 times. It's a little detail, but it's kind of a big deal. The way that it's described in both makes sense for each issue, but it does make it seem like an error that Diana didn't mention it had a limit in her book, because if that's the case, then that restriction will be on the item going forward. And for example, if one is only reading Diana's book and that info isn't in there, then all of a sudden if it comes up that, oh, there's only 1 use left, it'll be coming out of nowhere. Although of course we won't be able to catch up, but you see, I got stuck here for a little bit. Many of us have had those moments. What's one of those moments that's happened for you? Maybe they decided on giving it a limit later. Maybe I missed it and it was buried, but I reread it several times. Let me know, because I'm open to being wrong. I rushed back to reread it. You have no idea how fast. Now, for whichever it is, likely it is that there's a limit because they highlighted it so hard. They both have narrative pros and cons. Now for this issue, we get to see the Dragota version of Absolute Wonder Woman. Now Bruce summoned Diana because he wants help curing Waylon. And Diana says that the hope lies not in their realm, but in another. And also time moves differently there, so he's not even gonna have to take any time off work. And with that kind of nebulous gap of time, that means you have room for character development. Anything flying here is a target. We're safer walking. Besides, Pegasus is still wary of mortals, finding most of them unworthy.
You're saying you wouldn't like me?
Come, we walk. Dodging those types of why didn't the eagles fly from the mortar questions. I do like Diana and Bruce's banter in this. It's fun. In both of the issues, it just seems that they have a very cool energy with each other. However, it's worth noting that in this issue, Diana is depicted as a bit colder than she is in her own book. It works out because she's still kind and she cares deeply, but she's a bit more pulled back, or she seems to be. There's a distance. I'm curious if that's deliberate to show how she comes across from Bruce's perspective, or a difference in how this depiction comes across because of how the creators themselves view the characters, whether that's what's playing out. Now their journey is long and dealt with mostly in little tiny panels, with days moving quite quickly, so there's gaps, so fanfic people, get ready. There's all kinds of space for you to explore. Plus they're gonna give you a we're not together panel. That kind of denial can only spur a certain type of shipper on. Now they're off to meet a character called Akrolis, and this issue is playing with a blend of actual mythology and just what needs to be there for the story. Like, Akrolis is for here, but making Proteus the choice would mean they couldn't do what they want to do with centaurs later on. Now we briefly have an interlude of Alfred going to feed Waylon. It's to give us a gap between when they arrive before they're gonna have the battle with Akrolis and the nighttime part of the issue. Also, then you get to kind of see what some of the other characters are doing, and it does kind of flesh out the universe a little bit, and you have a tiny bit of a joking moment. Akrolis is more than a centaur. He's Lord of Transformation. His bow makes 2 legs into 4 and 4 into 2. The land he guards is full of beings he has changed. Bruce?
I'm sorry, it's just first monsters under Gotham, then the thumb drive you gave me, aliens, gods, now this place.
I understand. Your world is new and strange to me. Here, it will protect you, not against injury or death, but at least against Akrolis' magic.
Diana, you think I can do this? Help my friend.
Everything you need lies inside you. Drink. Now in this realm, and thanks to Diana, Bruce is able to have a dream where he encounters his father. And this scene is really powerful, arguably the most powerful of the issue, where he just gets to talk to him and work through his feelings about how he can't protect his friends. He also starts off as a child inside the Bat costume in this, which reinforces the hurt child idea that's baked into Batman at his core. Thomas tells him that he didn't just save him that day at the zoo, in fact he actually saved him a long time before that in the way that he raised him by giving him an opportunity, by educating him, and also so by believing in him. That created a foundation from which he could thrive, and that was the gift, not just his life. You're an engineer, Bruce. You know, building isn't about any one ribbon cutting. It's the commitment to making the city better, visualizing what could be, and working every day to make it so, little by little, even in those moments it seems out of reach, especially in those moments. So get out there and build. And all of this is happening on the bat-inspired design from his youth. It's wrapping the bat symbolism in positive and negative emotions for him. This issue got pretty deep with Bruce, and it's also still a speech that could apply to the mainline one. So that kind of reinforcement of the core idea across those levels was nice to see. This was also just a good moment because this series, when it gets into action arc mode, it can sometimes cast the emotional beats a bit off to the side, or they can seem minimized because the action is so big. So this slight slowdown, which allowed them to draw it forward, was appreciated. And there's still time for fighting because now they have to go meet Akrolis and then they fight. I'm trying so hard not to say Acropolis. Diana of the Amazons, daughter of Circe, who though gifted the powers of transformation like myself, is too good to consort with us lowly beings down here. What divine joy I shall take in felling you and your mortal mate. We're not together. That's such a jarring modern type response. It is a cliche, but it's a cool panel. But for some, it may be a bit of a take out moment. Also, as mentioned, if people are going to ship them, that makes no difference. They've done more with less. Now, admittedly, in this universe, Bruce has that thing with Selena, like usual. And if he were to go for Diana, he'd have to fight his way through a line. The battle panels are really cool, and it's a nice detail that Diana's sword makes Batman's axe look small. Bruce, never stand behind a centaur.
What?
Shame. I admit he had a warrior's heart. He might have made a fine centaur. Perhaps a bat centaur for my stable. The fact that my mind just started instantly casting back to the Silver Age to was Batman ever a centaur, and immediately came up with centaur speed. Maybe this is why they couldn't use Proteus, because then we'd be so close to Bat Mermaid again. No, the real reason is because they foreshadow that Batman and Pegasus were gonna have a moment. So we get to have Batman riding Wonder Woman's horse, and it's pretty great. Now Bruce gets shot with an arrow saving Diana, but that's ultimately what they needed. You've not failed, Bruce. Remember what I told you. Now let's get you home. That panel there completely undoes the "we're not together" panel. She just looks so soft and sweet holding him like that. It's really cute. Also, all of that aside, she feels like such an Amazon, which she is, but sometimes Diana doesn't get depicted that way, even though she is one. Or if they're trying, it doesn't fully come across. It comes across here. The scale and sizing of her and her strength. Now this arrow seems to still be able to function as a means for Wayland, so that he can transform at will, hopefully. One friend helped, 3 more to go, and he still made it to work on Monday. This is an excellent issue, and also it was really interesting to see the different approaches to the team up. This is still very much Batman focused, and Wonder Woman feels more like a guest star coming in. Whereas the Wonder Woman book felt more like a team up, a collaborative thing between the two. They pulled equal focus. However, regardless, they're both good issues, and they still leave space for the books to feel like their own things and not like we need to rush and smash all the absolute characters together. Now this Batman issue does a great job of expanding Bruce emotionally and letting the reader sit with his feelings and the questions of his friends and their fates, and seeing more of that fallout than the shocking reveal moments in the Bane arc. Letting it sink in and letting people sit with the consequences that things are indeed actually changed. And it also gives Bruce something else that he's working towards, and bringing into focus for him that's still worth fighting even if people get hurt. It also reinforces his and Diana's relationship, and works towards putting them kind of together as that world's finest head of the Justice League, or whatever they're gonna call their version of Hero Team. The villains took their name. Also in this, Bruce just feels young. This really brings it home, and how he's looking to her for guidance. Because that's a different dynamic than the one he has with Alfred. You're kind of expecting that with Alfred, but seeing it with her, it just reinforces that this Bruce is quite young and new to this. Now the balance of edge and heart is on point in this one. You get your emotional moments and your cool moments. For this series, this is a more grounded issue, and for some that will work and others may miss some of the bombast. No exploding this issue, but they'll get back to it. Now sometimes this series does have some inconsistencies, such as you see with the talisman. Now that's an inconsistency in between books. However, sometimes it happens internally as well with just little details. Now some may feel for this issue the jokes are set up a tad too obviously, or the foreshadowing flashes in neon signs. However, this issue does pay off what it sets up and nicely moves forward / opens up some of the lingering dramatic beats, like a future for Wayland. This issue is dense, though not in a bad way, in a sense of it's going to take you a bit more time to read it and that it has reread value. Now, of course, like everything, it's not for everyone. As always worth noting, the Absolute Universe is not everyone's cup of tea, and for some this Bruce is too far removed from what they know or want. Some find they also can't just suspend their disbelief for some of the inner workings of this universe in terms of how does Bruce have the resources he has, or how does his job pay for that? And some do find this book too edgy. The 90s reborn is something I've seen, which I know for those who like / like 90s comics, they may either find that reductive or also state that's not a bad thing. This is an issue I can see shifting the needle a bit for some, because it shows more facets of this Bruce and really humanizes him in a focused way. Personally, I like the slower pace nice and the more balance of everything. I'm sure we'll get back to people melting, blood oozing, dissolving, the body horror. This was a place to take a breath. Why did I do that? Why did I take an actual breath? Now, all of these were just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Did you enjoy this crossover issue? My camera died, but I still wanted to do the outro. So thanks so much for taking some time to discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. Please do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe, and there will be more videos coming soon. Bye-bye.